Joining us now is Cenk Uygur, who's currently running in the Democratic primary for President of the United States. So Cenk, it's been a while since we've talked, and I'm sure there's lots of updates. So it seems less and less likely that your primary run is going to go anywhere. So what are your plans? Are you going to stay in the race?
So I think that your analysis is fair, and so let me explain what's happened since, and then talk about what's the most important, which is what we're going to do next, right? So in terms of what's happened, two main things. One is, unfortunately, our case in South Carolina was not expedited. That sounds like a minor thing, but it isn't. So when a case is not expedited, that means that it will not be decided before the election in South Carolina, which then likely means that the court will rule it moot afterwards. So they put you in a catch-22 you can't get out of. So they're like, we're not gonna hear your case until it's irrelevant, and then we'll declare it irrelevant. So is that another injustice? Of course it is, but that's normal. Right?
Did they give a reason?
No, they did not give a reason. And so, do we have enough money to sue in another state? I'm gonna be honest with you guys, no, we don't. I wish I had a lot more money. We raised way more money for the congressional run, and I get why, because people thought I could win that one, but they think I can't win this one. I totally get it, right? So then the second thing happened is New Hampshire. And so New Hampshire, we were not allowed on the ballot, we weren't competing. So I didn't, like, the results are obvious, and that's not an issue, and we didn't even try there, that's okay. So I wasn't worried about that, but I will tell you, the day after, or that night, when I saw Vermin Supreme being interviewed, and he's got the boot on his head, and I know he's a performance artist and he doesn't mean anything, any harm. He's trying to actually send a decent message out, etc. But I thought, that brother made it onto the ballot. That's this country saying, he's okay. He at least could lead us. You don't even have a boot on your head. You're no good naturalized citizen. We don't trust you. We potentially trust Vermin, but we don't trust you. You're not even allowed in the race. And that bummed me out, okay? But then there came the silver lining, because you know me, Anna, I'm an eternal optimist, and I always try to look for, okay, yes, but what are we gonna do next that's positive, that gives people hope, right? So I realized, oh my God, I'm on the presidential ballot in 7 different states. And I was mad that they stopped including me in the polls, right? Like Quinnipiac had me in a poll, I got to 2%. That was actually the first poll they did with me in it. That's the equivalent of 1.6 million Democratic voters saying, yeah, I want that guy to be president of the United States. And that's humbling and wonderful, etc. So I thought, yeah, but even if they're not including me in the polls now, so what? The election is the ultimate poll. And I'm on the ballot in Vermont, I'm on the ballot in Texas, Oklahoma, and a whole bunch of Super Tuesday states. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn my campaign into a message campaign. Now, I'm super realistic about it, both in terms of the potential for winning, which is tiny at this point, right? And also even the idea of getting a message out, that's also very difficult, right? For example, they tried to write in ceasefire in New Hampshire, and it got a lot of votes, and I got a lot of votes, and then they didn't report it. They just said 10,000 votes that were written in, but we're not gonna tell you who they were.
Total?
Total.
Okay.
Okay. So it's possible that I came in third, it's possible ceasefire came in third, right? But it's unreported. But I'm like, you can't not report it on the states that I'm in. So now, I'm gonna try to do something audacious as I always do, which is to try to win Vermont.
Okay.
Like, I'm not unrealistic. Texas is a giant state. In 5 weeks, we are not going to be able to get our message out effectively enough, especially with mainstream media stonewalling me, that I'm gonna win Texas. That's crazy. On the other hand, Vermont is smaller than a congressional district. It's the home of progressives. Does Vermont want to send a message, end the war, end the occupation? Now, if I won, no one would dispute that would be stunning, and the message will have been delivered, right? And so at that point, Biden's got to be thinking, well, how much longer do I want to go with the war if I just heard this resounding message, stop the war, stop the occupation? So that's point one. There's a second point too, but that alone would be worth it. There's actually 2 more points as to why I'm continuing. But again, if people say, hey, your chances are totally unrealistic now, so I don't want to give my hard-earned money, 25 bucks, 5 bucks, whatever it is, I totally get it, guys. I'm the only candidate that'll ever say that, right? But if you want to help send that message and you want to take advantage of this unique opportunity where one of us is on the ballot in 7 different states, and we could use that as an opportunity to send a message, that would be amazing.
When is the last primary for the state that you're on the ballot for?
So it's later in the process. I'm not looking past Super Tuesday. So like, let's go to Super Tuesday. And Anna, it's not just about winning Vermont. Any delegate is a delegate for peace. And any state where you get above 15%. Now in Michigan, you have to do a write-in, so that's very difficult. On the other hand, Michigan is filled with voters who agree with me.
Right.
So if I get to 15% in Michigan or any other state, I get delegates.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what you experienced when you visited Dearborn recently?
Yeah. So of course I met with Muslim and Arab leaders, but more importantly, just citizens, right? And they're livid. They're done with Biden. There is, my sense was nothing on earth could move them to vote for Joe Biden.
Yeah, the Washington Post actually came out with a piece today that's fascinating, and I want to talk about it on the show tomorrow, but there is a growing movement among Arabs and Muslims in Michigan where it's now an organized movement to vote against Biden.
Well, good opportunity for them. Write in Cenk Uygur.
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility.
That's your first vote against Biden. And by the way, that's the beauty of doing this within the primaries, because it doesn't hurt against Trump in the general election at all. Like the idea that they always say, oh, you're taking votes away from Biden. Not in a primary.
Right.
In primary, you're just sending a message, especially given the fact that it is enormously likely that Biden's going to win. Then you don't have to worry about it at all. All you're doing is sending a message saying, I don't like this war, I don't want to fund it, I don't want to fund the occupation. Let's be decent and humane and moral and stand up for what's right, especially as Democratic voters and especially in Michigan.
Right.
So help me, look, I do town halls every Wednesday. I'm gonna do one later today, right, tonight. And I get supporters and stuff, and I go, let's figure this out together. And they come up with good suggestions too. And let's go figure out a way to get our message out in Michigan, to write me in, and to vote for me in Vermont, Texas, Oklahoma, and other states on Super Tuesday that I'm on the ballot.
Okay, great. So tell us a little bit about another town hall that you're going to be having soon.
So that's the one tonight.
Oh, that is tonight. Okay.
Yeah. So look, we can put up the QR code there. I think you guys have it. There it is, and it's always on under events on cenkforamerica.com. So go to events on cenkforamerica.com. You always see my upcoming town hall. Okay, and wherever I'm going to be going to Vermont soon. I'm going to speak at Bennington and other colleges, etc. Okay. So, but one of the things I want to explain is that every delegate that I get is a delegate for peace. And so we get to go to the convention. Imagine if I have delegates. Now, that's, again, guys, I'm the most realistic guy. So I'm not telling you, oh, we get 10 delegates or 200 delegates, that's it, we're gonna stop the war. But it does get press attention. Here is, and it does 2 things. One, it would be the first time a naturalized citizen got a delegate for president. That would be historic and amazing, and you could make that happen. And we definitely still need funds to make that happen. If you're interested in that, cenkforamerica.com. But then I get to go to the DNC and go, here's my delegates that are for peace and make our stand.
Now, there are some progressive Democrats who purport to want a ceasefire, they want peace. And several of them are actually members of Justice Democrats, or they got elected through the Justice Democrats platform. And obviously you're the co-founder of Justice Democrats, and you did a lot of work to help support them in their electoral efforts. Curious if anyone has come out in support of what you're doing, either rhetorically, behind the scenes, or publicly. No,
none.
Interesting, why do you think that is?
Well, look, to be fair to them, they probably think it's unrealistic, and I get that. And then to be unfair to them, they think opposing Biden is heresy and that they would be yelled at in Washington. And I know they get yelled at for good reasons, like they do, a lot of them fight for the Palestinians in Congress, and I deeply appreciate that, right? But they have a line, and the line is you cannot cross the establishment. If you do, the media will be very mean to you. So the idea of supporting a message candidate to end the war in Gaza, I don't think it's even occurred to them.
That's interesting. So what was the objective of Justice Democrats in the first place?
To challenge the establishment.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay, that's fair. All right, now look, there's other things we can do. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you one small one, then one big one. So given this opportunity I'm never gonna get to have again of being on a presidential ballot, what I think is, well, why not tell everybody all the things that we care about and all the amazing things that would happen if you elected a strong progressive? So I'm going to talk to people about ending corruption and ending how the politicians are hooked on donor money. For our audience, that might be obvious, but when you get into other forms of media, nobody ever talks about that. Ever, right? They don't talk about it in right-wing media. They don't talk about it in mainstream media. They don't talk about it even mostly in the online media, right? We're the one show that's obsessed with it. Some other shows mention it from time to time, but no one ever does a campaign. So look, and then all the progressive policies we have, paid family leave, minimum wage, you've heard me talk about a lot. Why not take this opportunity to say, yes, I'm also in favor of this. Wouldn't it be amazing if we had a Democratic candidate that fought for all of this? Okay, but the third one is also huge, which is, and this is, I get that it's funny, guys. I get that I don't have the power to do this, okay? But I have appointed myself the Trump czar of the Democratic Party.
That'll be great.
Okay. So now, what does that mean? Well, look, why did I get in the race in the first place? Number one objective was to push Biden out so we could actually beat Trump. And you, most honest politician you'll ever meet, right? We didn't do that. We couldn't do it. We couldn't get the governors into the race to push him out, and we couldn't get him to leave on his own accord so that we could actually beat Donald Trump. So we're going to limp into this general election with a wounded antelope, and there's nothing I could do about it. I tried and tried. And guys, part of what I'm doing here is get caught trying, right? So I'm leading by example here. And even if, oh my God, you didn't do well here and you didn't do well there, and you only got 2%, etc. I'll take all of it. I'll take it. And you can hit me on it. I don't mind, as long as we're trying to do something positive in the world.
Okay.
And I cannot. And overall, for progressives and for the country and for Democratic voters, we've got to get to 2028. If we get to 2028, then I think we're going to be in good shape, and we've got to build towards that. But if you want to get to 2028, you can't have Donald Trump win.
What do you mean by we have to get to 2028? What does that mean?
That means that once this campaign is over, we have to find a candidate and build around them. It takes a long, long time. I now have tremendous personal experience in running a presidential campaign and knowing what it takes, what the challenges are for a normal candidate, etc. And how do we build towards that? So because we have to give people hope. So when you look at Biden and Trump and you look, well, okay, for example, on Gaza, well, Biden would keep killing them and Trump would keep killing them. There's no hope. Biden would continue the corruption, Trump would continue the corruption. There's no hope. Biden won't do paid family leave, Trump won't do paid family. You see what I'm saying? So that means we need our own candidate, and hopefully someone who's got less hurdles than me, and we have to prepare well in advance to win in 2028. Because there's the guys, I love you, and I don't want to give you, but I never want to give you false hope. There's even if Biden wins, the idea that he's magically going to do all these progressive policies is a pipe dream.
No, it's over.
It's pipe dream.
No,
right?
The window for progressive policies has been squandered. So let's just be realistic about that.
Yes, so we have to rebuild. We have to rebuild, and that sucks, but I'm honest with you and I'm real with you. We got to rebuild towards 2028. But what I'm worried about and why I got in the race in the first place, because I'm worried if Trump wins, there is no 2028. So it's not like, oh yeah, you think Biden's going to be an angel. No, do you think Biden's going to be 2,000 times better than Trump? I don't know, right? But I do know that if Biden wins, or even if Nikki Haley wins, and I despise Nikki Haley, we're gonna have an election in 2028. The only person I'm not sure we're gonna have an election in 2028 is the one that tried to stop democracy earlier, and that's Donald Trump. So I bought spoileddonnie.com.
You love the URLs.
I do, and it redirects to my site. I bought trumpthebetrayer.com.
Oh my God.
And that redirects to my site. And so what am I going to do here? I'm going to lead by example as I do, which is to show Biden and the other Democrats how you fight Trump. You don't fight him by constantly saying racist, sexist, xenophobe, etc. Everybody already knows that, okay? And for a lot of voters, unfortunately, that's not the bug, that's the feature. But for a lot of voters that are half of MAGA or Republicans and almost all independents, they don't, they're voting for him despite that, right? And so for those folks, they already got the message. What you have to give them is two other messages. One is Donald Trump is incredibly weak. He's an insecure little baby, And the minute you trigger him, he does something stupid. And we cannot afford that when he's president of the United States. And this little baby got $413 million handed to him by his daddy. And then he blew it all. He went bankrupt 6 different times. So I'm gonna point out in 1,000 different ways what a loser this guy is. Total imbecile, clown of the earth, okay? We cannot risk this guy again. And that's, by the way, also why he tried to end democracy. I lost the election, I don't want to lose the election, you took my toy away, right? So I'm gonna kick his ass on that. And on the second point on the betrayer, it's not about betraying America, although he did that too. It's about he betrays the people who trusted him the most. So the Jeff Sessions and everyone who's ever worked for him, everyone who's ever invested in him, anybody who went to Trump University, Trump Charity, what did he do? He betrayed every single person who's ever trusted him. So what I'm gonna tell independents and half of Republicans is, guys, what do you think he's gonna do to you? You trust him more than anyone else. You're the mark. He's a con man. He tries to gain your confidence and then betray it. That's his MO. And if people really understand that, it's one thing to say, yeah, he hates other people, but I ain't other people. It's another thing to think, oh, he's gonna betray me.
Okay.
Maybe that changes the dynamic. Look, I'm not the guy who comes in and goes, that's it. Now that I'm the Trump czar, Trump's done. We win automatically. But is it better to have one person in the Democratic race who's trying to take Trump's head off politically and rhetorically than having zero? Yeah, right? Biden doesn't know how to fight him at all and barely even does. Anytime he gives one speech a year against Trump, people are like, whoa, look at Biden giving one speech against Trump. No, I'm gonna go after him 100%. So when it comes to the voting, that's about sending a message to the Democratic Party. And as I'm running, I'm gonna pummel Trump to the best of my abilities.
All right, everyone, learn more about what Cenk is doing over at cenkforamerica.com. Cenk, thank you for giving us these updates, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. It's a golden opportunity. I don't know when we're gonna be on the ballot next. Let's go get them. Let's send a message together. Thank you, Anna.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.